Okay, and I'm just going to stream us over to Facebook now, connecting. And I'll be logging in over here as well, so I can monitor the questions from our wonderful audience. Yay! And we are live. Welcome, mighty mystery fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I'm thrilled to have with me today Megan Collins, whose brand new book, Behind the Red Door, is out today. Megan, welcome. Tell us about your book.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you guys. Behind the Red Door, which is right behind me in a couple spots.
Yay.
It's a dark thriller about a woman who feels a connection to a decades-old kidnapping. And now that the kidnapping victim from 20 years ago has gone missing again, which the woman has just seen on the news, she is struggling to find out, why do I feel this connection to her? Why do I feel like I know her? Do I know something from when I was a kid maybe that I've repressed that could help figure out where she is now and who took her? So that's what the book is about. It's dark. It's been called chilling, haunting, all those things. And yeah, that's Behind the Red Door.
Oh my gosh. Well, we are so excited to have you here. And I just want to welcome our audience on Facebook. Welcome, everybody. Feel free to say hi. Tell us where you're listening from today. We love to know where you're logging on from. And again, you know the drill. This is your time with our special guest. So any questions you have about writing, about mysteries, about Megan, about the Red Door, just go ahead and type them in our chat box and I will be sure to get them right over and Megan will respond. Megan, while everyone's thinking of their questions, I have to share just a few of your absolutely incredible reviews. Kirk is saying that Collins nimbly, I love that, nimbly orchestrates Fern's growing sense of terror as she slowly sifts in echoes of long repressed sounds and sights, a tricky mystery. Even in the final pages, Collins avoids any expected resolution, leaving the reader deliciously unsettled and disturbed. A dark psychological thriller riddled with twisted family. Wow, what an incredible rave review from Kirkus. And you know that ain't easy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Publishers Weekly raving that Collins plays her cards carefully to maximize suspense. That is such an incredibly hard thing to do. Tell us your secret for doing that.
For maximizing suspense?
Mm-hmm. Playing your cards carefully.
I think it's that I always think that, you know, everything that happens, every plot point that happens, it should always be pushing the character in a new direction. So they thought they were going one way, they thought their life was one way, but now something's come in and now they're over here. And so through that, a lot of the suspense comes in because it's like, okay, now we're in this completely different story that I didn't know before. And then, sorry, there's a tornado warning? Yes. There's a tornado warning.
Hey, we don't know what's behind the red door. It could be a tornado.
I mean, we'll see if we hear a tornado.
Hold on to your dog. We could have a Toto moment happening.
So anyway, so that's how I think of suspense, as just the story's always moving forward. There's always something new that you want to uncover. There's always something that's being uncovered every chapter, even if it's just a little clue or a new character that comes in that kind of puts a wrench into everything.
Oh, I love that. And clearly, according to Kirkus, you have done that so well, which is absolutely incredible. I want to again welcome our audience. Gail is saying hi. She is watching from Massachusetts, waiting for Isaias. Is that the tornado?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Oh my goodness. Megan's joining us from Connecticut, so she's gonna guard it for us up here in Boston. Absolutely amazing. And one thing that Kirkus also I think brings up is Fern, your main character's quote growing sense of terror. And I know that addressing anxiety on the page was really important to you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm someone who I've struggled with anxiety my whole life. I go to therapy for anxiety, I have medication, and I had never seen a representation of it on the page the way you can see my lights flickering. It's kind of going in and out. So we have some extra atmosphere going on right now. But I had never seen my experience with anxiety represented on the page before. And so when I was creating this character who is going through something that is already very anxiety provoking, feeling like she has this connection to this old kidnapping, feeling like she might know something that she can't remember. I just thought I wanted to create a character that has that daily just anxiety going through her mind all the time. And so this was my way to try to like normalize that and show people that, you know, people live with these things all the time. And I think a lot of times people think like with depression or anxiety, it's just the way like you're doing something to think in the wrong way. Like, oh, you're depressed. Well, just cheer up. Like, no, it's not like that. Or, oh, you're anxious about something. Stop worrying about it. It doesn't matter. And that's not how it works. So I really wanted to have this character that could, one, make people who have anxiety feel seen, feel understood, and then also hopefully help people who don't have it and don't live with it every day understand what's going on in a person's head, and that so much it's out of their control. And so the character in the book, she talks about the different kind of coping mechanisms she has to help her anxiety. And a lot of those are actually things I've taken from my own therapist that she's kind of given to me. So it was really important to me to bring this mental health issue to the forefront with this book. It's a book in so many ways about fear and about the way that fear can kind of paralyze us and define us, but ultimately how we have to learn to live with certain fears. And that's the character's journey in this book. And so, so I wanted to make her as anxious as possible.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for doing that. Thank you for addressing it. As someone who has also struggled with anxiety my whole life, who has also, gone to therapy, who has tried everything in the book from essential oils to Western meds. I've done it all. That's what got me into yoga. That's why I teach yoga, and I specialize in working with people with anxiety because it has been so helpful for me. And you're right. There's not a lot of normalizing that on the page or on the screen or on the stage. And it's important because, and we were actually just chatting about this in the green room, but in October, I moderated a panel at the Chelsea Film Festival in New York. A documentary film was released on anxiety called Chasing the Present. It's a beautiful film. It took them, I think, 3 years to film. And as of 2016, anxiety became the most prevalent mental health concern in the world, outpacing depression for the first time ever. And that means a lot of us are struggling with this, and a lot of us live with this every single day, but it's somehow not talked about that much. And somehow we don't see a lot of characters who struggle with this or who live with this. And so it's so important that you did this. So thank you. That's amazing.
Yeah, thanks. And I think that that shift you talked about anxiety sort of outpacing depression, I think that so much of it is, especially with anxiety, we're just kind of taught like live with it. Or like the thing with me is for so long, I thought that these thoughts and these worries I had, that I'm worrying about something that somebody else just like blew past and was like, why are you worrying about that? I just thought like, okay, I'm just being crazy. And, and people say that, like, they're like, oh, you're just being crazy. Like, but no, I'm not being crazy. Like my brain literally works in a different way to create those thoughts. And so I think that the more and more awareness that comes to it, that that more people are suffering from this than they even know. I think that that's helpful because you can just kind of get into this mode where you're thinking, okay, why did that person just hear that thing on the news and they're like, that's fine, and I'm going into a spiral. So I think it's important for people to know that this is just a way that brains work sometimes. And
Exactly. And I think a lot of brains work this way. In fact, I know a lot of brains do. And also it's important to acknowledge we live in anxiety inducing times. There's a global pandemic happening.
Anyone who doesn't have anxiety right now, I don't understand them.
Right. McFly, hello. Think McFly, think. Oh my gosh. Well, I want to welcome Sharon from Minnesota. Welcome, Sharon. Hi, Catherine from Wisconsin. So many wonderful people logging in from across the country. This is so great to have everyone. And yay, people are saying they appreciate that you talking about living with fear and anxiety and letting us know we're not alone. Yes, Ruthie, thank you for that. Sharon says, what a great character that would be to show this. My daughter has anxiety, but now at 20, she says she can learn to control them. And this is, again, so important. So yay. Tell us about the book. How long did it take you to write this book?
It took me, I think I started in about June of, oh God, I don't know what year it would have been, 2018, I think. And then I finished it roughly like the rough draft, April of 2019, and then went through the whole editing process. And so had it pretty much revised by the end of last summer. So about a year for everything. But I do tend to actually write fairly quickly once I have like a good outline and everything and I know where I'm going, because I'm someone who has to know ahead of time like exactly what's going to happen. And I know for some writers they're like, no, that takes the magic out, but for me the magic is in having this map of where I'm going to go and then things still coming up and surprising me and characters saying things that I didn't know was going to happen and discovering details along the way. So yeah, about a year altogether.
Wow, that is fast. Amazing. Let me genuflect to you right now. I'm 6 years in on my second book. I'm still not done. So that you are Speedy Gonzalez over there. I'm amazed. Ruthie's saying she's going to put this one in her cart. Ruthie, yes, girl.
Yay,
We have an amazing partnership with bookshop.org, which supports independent bookstores. So my partner in crime, the amazing Jenna Blum, will be posting that link. We can all put it in our cart. Catherine would like to know, what was your writing process for this book? Was it different from the first novel? Yeah, tell us about that. What's been your evolution?
Yeah, it was different from the first novel because the first novel, The Winter Sister, which was my debut, I didn't set out to write a thriller or even a mystery. It was just because it was the story I wanted to tell and it was just organically that way. But I didn't sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to do a thriller, so I have to do this, this, and this, and readers will expect this or this. But then when it got published and it was marketed that way, I saw, of course, how it fit into the genre. And so when I wrote Behind the Red Door, I really leaned into that, into the suspense thriller genre. And that allowed me to be like even darker and creepier and do all those things that I love so much. So it was a lot of fun.
Wow, that's so fun. So when you set out to write your first book and not intending to write a thriller or a mystery, what were you intending to write?
That book is about, it's a story. I mean, it's very clearly a mystery because it's about an unsolved murder. So I don't know what I was thinking, but it's about a woman who goes home to take care of her estranged mother who's going through cancer treatment. And in the process, she starts digging into what really happened to her older sister who had been murdered when they were teenagers. And the case has never been solved. So yeah, it was clearly a mystery, but I was really focused on the idea of that story actually came to me as it was inspired by the Greek myth of Persephone and Demeter, which is my favorite. Sorry, lights are still flickering.
The universe is amping up the suspense.
Yeah. And so the girl who, this is the book, by the way, I have it right here. The girl who is murdered in that book, her name is Persephone. And so I had this thought that was like, in the original myth, Demeter falls apart completely when her daughter Persephone disappears. But what if she had had another daughter and therefore Persephone had had a sister? Would she have fallen apart as completely? And if she did, what would that have been like for the other daughter trying to navigate her life and into adulthood? So that was really the driving force for me in writing this book and kind of making it a contemporary reimagining of that myth. And the only name that stays the same from the myth is Persephone. There's no like Hades or Demeter or anything. But so that's kind of the story I was really interested in, with this like sort of broken bond between a mother and daughter who were really close, and then how that is all coming to a head now that the daughter has to take care of the mother, and the daughter she runs into Persephone's boyfriend, who she was sure murdered her, even though like he was never arrested or anything, and that just makes her more hell-bent on figuring out what happened. So yeah, so it was clearly a mystery, but I was just coming at it from more the emotional standpoint. So I think that's why I wasn't thinking necessarily like thriller, suspense, all those things.
And what's your interest in Greek mythology? Are you Greek? Did you study the classics? Tell us why you love Persephone.
It started, I took Latin in high school and I had the best teacher in the world. And she would we did not learn these stories like in a textbook or anything. She would just sit on a chair and it was like we were little kids being told a story, and she would just tell the stories to us really conversationally. And so that was how I fell in love with it. And now I'm a creative writing teacher at an arts high school, and I teach a mythology class, and I teach, we learn the myths, and then they write pieces kind of reimagining them, inspired by the themes and characters. So, and I totally credit my Mrs. Murray, my high school Latin teacher, who just made me fall in love with it because of her passion for it. So I just love the stories because they're so timeless, they're so ridiculous, they're so crazy. And there's things that we can still relate to and learn from them today. So I love that.
Oh, that's so cool. And it just goes to show you the difference that one teacher can make.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Mary was that for you. And who knows who you are being that for now. And in 10 or 20 years, someone could be giving an interview and crediting Mrs. Collins. I mean, it's really cool. I think I always feel like the biggest thing that we can do in our time here on this planet is to impact another person in a positive way. And clearly Mrs. Mary did that for you. And now you're passing that on, which is just so incredibly cool and lovely. Oh my gosh, I love that. Catherine is saying that perhaps your spooky book is getting a spooky mood lighting from the universe. Really You're creating this. You had no idea. I love it.
And it really is like the tornado warning that came in. Tornadoes are one of my biggest fears. This is a book about fear. So it was like, we're going to be branded to your book today.
I think we should all be careful what we ask the universe for, what we invite in. Tell us about the title and the cover. Was this the title? Did it arrive in a divine lightning bolt of brilliance? Was this number 101? The cover. Tell us the inside scoop.
So Behind the Red Door, the title, it's actually, there's a book within a book aspect to this book, because the woman who was kidnapped when she was a teenager, now she's grown up, she's 34 years old, and she has written a memoir about her kidnapping, her very famous kidnapping and very famous unsolved return to her town, where she was just sort of like left on the curb and no one knew who did it, including her. All she knew was that she was kept in a basement by a man in a mask, and that there was a bright red door at the top of the stairs. Yeah. So her memoir is entitled Behind the Red Door. And Fern, the main character of the book, who is feeling this connection to this woman who doesn't remember that very famous kidnapping, even though supposedly, like, everybody's like, no, this is a household name, like everybody knows this story. She buys the book and she reads through it, and she tries to see if there's clues to what she may know. She visits the places in the book, talks to the people in the book. So interspersed throughout it, there are these excerpts of the memoir. So when I was trying to come up with the title for the book overall, I had all these ideas. They were all terrible. I couldn't think of anything that I liked. And then my agent just said, why don't you just call it Behind the Red Door? And I was like, well, is that weird? Because that's what the memoir in the book is called. And she was like, no, it's perfect. And I was like, okay.
She said modestly. She's like, it's brilliant. Oh my gosh, that is a really cool story. I love that. And I think, I don't know, I'm always fascinated by people who survive, trying circumstances, especially kidnappings. I think J.C. Duggar wrote a memoir, right, about surviving. And so I have not had the courage yet to read that. Were you influenced at all by that, or what drew you to this?
Well, I think as a thriller writer, and just as a person, I think this is common for a lot of people, I'm really drawn to missing person cases. I think there's something, this is going to sound terrible, but I mean, I write about murders. I think murder stories are fascinating. I think that darkness and what drives people to do that, it's horrible, it's evil, but delving into that dark side of humanity is really interesting to me. So the thing about a murder is, okay, well, you have a body, so you have a place to start, and you know something about what's going on. But with a missing person, you have nothing. They just disappear. And to me, that's so eerie in a way that even a murder isn't. Like, even if they're fine and they're somewhere and they're like getting fed and whatever, like, it's still eerier to me. I don't know if that's a word. More eerie to me than the actual murder, because you just don't know anything. So I've always been really fascinated by that. And then the idea for this story came for when I was thinking about, okay, what if somebody who had been famously kidnapped as a kid, like if you think of like an Elizabeth Smart type case, what if they then went missing again as an adult and were taken again? What would that look like? What would the media coverage be like? What would it take to find them if they had never been found the first time and they only came back out of, I guess, sort of the mercy of the person who took them? So that idea really interested in me. And then I just went off into this whole crazy book.
Wow, that is so interesting. And I love that you're talking about your fascination with the darker side of humanity, as I am also fascinated. And I think many of our mystery fans in the audience are, and fellow writers. And yet you're sitting here, this perky, lovely looking teacher in a, I noticed, red shirt. You're very branded, red glasses, looking fabulous. And you just, you don't seem like a person who would be fascinated by the dark side, and yet you are. So
I hear that a lot, actually. I've gotten that a lot. And I don't know, I think that, yeah, I mean, I enjoy laughing, I enjoy fun, I enjoy all the great puppies and kittens of the world. But I think that with everybody, there's that balance of darkness and light. And I think we appreciate the lightness because of the darkness. And I think maybe because my inclination personality wise is to be more like upbeat, that it makes all that darkness even more fascinating to me to just explore. And when I'm writing about it, I get to explore characters who are totally nowhere near what I'm like as a person. So that's really fun too, to just play around with those like really messed up people.
she says sweetly with the girlish giggle. And my partner in crime, Jenna, is saying she loves your branding, your outfit, hashtag red shirt, red door, red glasses. Tell us about the cover. Was this the first cover? Was it, did you immediately love it? Tell us.
To be honest, I didn't immediately love it. It took me a little while because, and I don't know why. Well, actually, the first draft of it was a little bit busier. There were sort of more glass shards all over it. So once they cleaned that up though and got rid of some and like brightened the red in the background, I was like, okay, like this is, you would see this on a shelf and you would notice it. And I love this eye in this broken glass piece. Ooh. That it's like, it could be the character Astrid who's missing and we're only seeing this glimpse of her, or it could be Fern, the main character, who feels like her identity has sort of been fragmented by things she can't remember. So I love it now. And I think that seeing a cover of your book for the first time is always weird because it suddenly becomes a real thing, whereas before it was just a document. And so to see a picture that's going to be attached to it and that's going to be the way it looks forever, like it's always an interesting experience. I love it. But yeah, I am super happy with the cover and I think it's really haunting, which I hope the book is as well. So
yes, exactly. We love it. And I read one time that women are more drawn to buy a book with a red cover than any other color of a cover. I read that in 2013 and it has always stayed with me.
That's great to know.
Oh, Catherine is saying she thinks the cover is fantastic as well. Friends, let us know what questions you have for her. This is your time with Megan. I'm just here to facilitate. So type them in the box. I'll get them right over to her. Megan, back to the titles. You said that your agent came up with this one. What were some of the ones that ended up on the cutting room floor?
So the one that I really liked was The Sharp Edge of Everything, which I liked that because that's sort of how Fern sees the world, that everything has a sharp edge, everything in every even benign situation, there's some danger lurking. The reason why I think my agent did like that title, but she ultimately said it sounded a little YA for like the things that are being published right now. So it didn't necessarily speak to an adult market. That was the one that I forget them now because the other ones were so terrible. So I've sort of blocked them out.
So nothing you still, mourn for and okay.
And cool. In fact, there was some discussion of possibly changing Behind the Red Door once my publisher was working on it. And we went through again, like all these different titles. And then they were like, no, we're just going to stick with Behind the Red Door. That's the best one. So it's so funny, the titling thing, because you really can't get attached to a title as a writer, because more often than not, it's going to change. But I really like this title. I like that it allows me to be branded with my book. So I love red. So it's great for me.
I love red too. That's awesome. We have a question from the audience. Catherine would like to know, what's in your TBR, your to be read pile? Yeah, tell us about your TBR.
Oh my gosh, so much. Well, I'm really looking forward to Migrations by Charlotte. Oh God, I can't remember her last name. It's like a big buzzy book right now, and my agent represents her, and it just looks like it's going to be so gorgeous. I'm also really looking forward to True Story, which I think just came out today, and Luster looks really awesome. But in terms of books that are coming out soon, this one I've actually read. I got a chance to read an advanced copy, but Wendy Walker's new one, Don't Look for Me.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm so obsessed with it. I read it in a day. I could not stop. And I love her work, but I think this is far and away the best that she's written. It's so good. I can't wait for everybody to be able to see it and talk about it.
Well, I'm excited. We are actually hosting Wendy on her pub day.
Great.
So Miami Mystery fans, you heard it here first. Megan Collins loved that book. And actually I just received an advanced copy too. So I'm going to be diving into it. And it's so great to know that you read it in a day. My God, you're a fast reader, speed reader over there.
Well, you will not want to stop once you start. You better carve out some time.
Yeah, exactly. I better like arrange my meals to be delivered that day, since I won't be able to get on. That's amazing. So we'll see her in September right here on A Mighty Mystery. Oh, another question. Catherine would like to know, how has the pandemic affected your writing process? Oh God, yeah. Tell us about that.
That's such a good question. It's been hard. It's like really hard because, we're all going through this. And then of course, obviously I've spoken about my anxiety, and for me, my biggest trigger for anxiety is medical things, is like health crisis. So there's actually a part in Behind the Red Door where Fern mentions, she sees somebody on the news her age died of an extremely rare disease, and her husband is like, well, it's rare, like you're not going to get it. And she's like, no, like rare just means it's possible, it could happen to me. And that's how I feel. And then of course coronavirus is not rare, it's going crazy. So that's been hard for me in that sense, to just find some mental space away from all that. But I will say that an unexpected gift, I guess, of this, although it's hard to call it a gift. So since I am a teacher, we went all online in the spring, starting March 13th. And that changed my schedule a bit, and it gave me more writing time than I'd had before. I'm not driving to work, I'm not driving home. So I was actually I was working on my next book, and I was able to get that done in the last few months because of that extra time. So it was really interesting. It was hard, but then I found that having a project to be working on was a real gift, because there was something that I could channel things into. So I wasn't just sitting down being like, okay, I should write. I don't know what to write about because my mind is going crazy. I had sort of a roadmap. I had a story I knew I wanted to tell. And so to be able to escape into that where the pandemic was not happening, that was really helpful, I think, for me. Oh.
That is so well said. My dog barked for a second, so I muted it. My tiny dog was chiming in with her critical review. No, it's so true, because the pandemic has both been a blessing of, we all have more time and we all got nowhere to go, but yet there is this anxiety of a global pandemic going on that's kind of hard to write around. And I think that you sort of captured that that challenge really, really well. Oh my gosh, I'm loving this. Catherine would like to know, two great questions. Can't wait. Is there anything you really hope that readers take from this book? Yes, tell us. What do you want us to take from this book?
Yeah, well, one, I touched on the anxiety thing, that I want people who have anxiety to feel seen and heard and understood by the book. I want those who don't have anxiety or don't live with that every day to understand what it is like for a person who does. And also something that the book explores is kind of what it's like to be in a toxic relationship. And she's not in a toxic romantic relationship, but her family life has always been extremely toxic to her. And because it was so toxic, she doesn't realize how toxic it is. Like, it was just a part of her existence. So she returns home to her hometown, coinciding with this whole thing with this woman going missing again, because her father is moving and she's going to help him. And that's a time when she could really use some parental support, but because her father is a very interesting man, he's not great, he hasn't been a great father, she is not getting that support that she needs, but she continually craves it, and she thinks, okay, well, this will be the time when I get that from him, this will be the time when things change and our relationship becomes what I always wanted it to be. So I really want to explore that idea of what does it take to get out of a toxic relationship, to see that that you should let go of a relationship when it's not serving you anymore. So that's definitely part of her journey. I know that readers have really responded to the parents in the book saying they're awful. Yes, they're meant to be awful. And so she really does not have the support that she needs at this time. And so the question is kind of, is that going to finally make her realize that there's something wrong here? Or is she just going to continue to be in this pattern? Which I think is a really human thing that happens. We get into these relationships, we want to hold on so hard, even though it's just hurting us more. So I really want to explore that. And I hope that that resonates with readers.
Oh, I think hands up, we can all relate to that, right? Who hasn't been in a toxic relationship? Who hasn't wished that a family member could be different or could acknowledge us in the way that we wish to be acknowledged? I mean, this is so relatable. Wow, I am absolutely loving this. Another question, what was the hardest part and the easiest part of writing this book? This book that only took you a year, you amazing woman.
That's a really great question.
That is a good question. Catherine in Fuego.
It's really hard. The initial plotting process is really hard for me. Like coming up with what is going to happen. Like, I always generally have a sense of what the ending is going to be, but that filling in the middle of how do we get there? How do we not get there too soon? How do we build in enough things? That's really hard for me. It's fun when it starts to all come together. And then the other hard thing, I think, oddly, was also the easy thing, which is the character of Ted, who is Fern's father, who is, he was both really easy and really hard to write. Like, he was easy because it was fun, because he's just such a narcissist, and he doesn't, but he's also like a little charming, as narcissists tend to be. And so it was fun just to write him saying these ridiculous things, and you're like, okay, you have problems. But then it was also really hard because I didn't want him to just be cartoonishly a bad father. I wanted that to come from someplace. So I really had to dig deep into what his psychology might be and build that background for him that would make him be the person he is now. So it was both hard and easy, but it was fun and rewarding.
Wow. I appreciate the thought that you put into that, because it's not easy to write a truly menacing bad guy who is such a complex character and who can be very charming. Yeah. That is challenging. Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, Megan, I feel like we've been talking for a second, but I guess we've been talking for half an hour. So that means it's time for the lightning round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. You're going on a camping trip. Would you rather go with Bram Stoker or Anne Rice?
Anne Rice.
You have to take a road trip to get to the campsite. Would you rather road trip with Mary Shelley or Shirley Jackson?
Shirley Jackson, 100%.
And why Shirley Jackson?
She is just like, I'm in awe of the way she makes her stories so sinister without things actually happening sometimes. It's like there's so much menace in it, but then you're like, wait, but nothing really happened, or it only just happened at the very end. And I think she's just a master of that, and I just love it.
Okay, so you're road tripping with Shirley Jackson, but you're going to hope that there's not a lottery on the way to the campsite.
Yeah. out.
Yeah, you got 50-50 odds there in the car of two.
Yeah.
What is one book that's changed your life?
Ooh, that's such a great question. Beloved by Toni Morrison.
Oh,
I think it's my all-time favorite book. I think it was the book that showed me that um, you don't have to sacrifice beautiful language for the sake of plot and storytelling, because it is such a compelling story. A woman being haunted by the ghosts, probably, of the child she killed so that she wouldn't end up in slavery. Like, that is a strong, powerful, heartbreaking hook. And it's a amazing story, but she, there's nobody like Toni Morrison on a sentence by sentence level. So that's always been so inspiring to me, that you can combine like great storytelling with truly beautiful writing.
Oh, I love that. What a beautiful answer and a beautiful tribute to Toni Morrison. Sharon saying every one of these interviews adds to her TBR list. Sharon, thank you so much. Catherine saying she loves the lottery. Amazing, amazing. What's one word that gives you the heebie-jeebies that you are not going to be using in any book anytime soon?
Ooh. I feel like it's too cliche to say moist, because everybody has a problem with moist. I
like moist.
Oh, really?
I like moist chocolate cake. I like moist cookies.
Okay, yeah, there is that.
But people don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it. It kind of makes me uncomfortable. But
is it the sound or what it means?
It's both. Because when I hear it, I never think about cake. I just think of gooiness. and it's partly the sound. So yeah, I guess that's my answer.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I love it. Last question. Would you rather be stuck in Area 54 with H.P. Lovecraft or Stephen King?
Stephen King.
And why?
I think H.P. Lovecraft was kind of problematic in a lot of ways so there's that aspect. But Stephen King, I think he gives amazing writing advice, so I could talk to him about that. I think also the character work he does in his stories is really strong, even though they're so plot heavy. So, and it's Stephen King. So
while you're not sleeping all night in Area 4, while you're on the lookout for aliens and whatever else terrorizes that area, at least you could have a chat with Stephen King and chat writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He might teach me some things.
Exactly. Chances are, I feel like he's the kind of guy who would know a zombie kill shot if you needed it.
Yeah, we'd be fine.
Oh my gosh. Well, Megan Collins, congratulations on the Red Door. Hold it up one more time. Show us that gorgeous cover. Yay. Thank you so much for joining us here on A Mighty Mystery. Thank you for the awesome questions, you guys. I'm going to say it. The Mighty Mystery peeps are the best questions. Thank you as always to my partner in crime, the amazing Jenna Blum. It has been such a pleasure to have you here, Megan, and we all can't wait to read your book.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yay. Have a great day, everybody. And we'll be up at 4 in just 20 minutes with Karen Dion, author of The Wicked Sister. We'll see you soon.